This is the exact email automation blueprint that we've used to drive over $40 million in sales for our e-com clients. This video is going to be perfect for you if you want to drive half your Klaviyo sales completely on autopilot, if you want to recover lost sales and abandoned carts, and if you want to increase your average order value and customer lifetime value. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be happening completely on autopilot. You set these flows up once and they're going to be working behind the scenes, driving half of your Klaviyo sales completely automatically. So if that sounds interesting, this video is for you. Now let's get started. All right, so what are flows? So in short, flows are email automations. They're sequences of emails that get triggered after someone does a specific action on your website. That could also be called a trigger. So the key difference between a flow and a campaign is that a flow is pretty much automatically sent after you've set it up once. So that could be, anytime someone joins your newsletter list, you want to send this email. So every time someone then joins your list, it's just going to automatically send an email. So a campaign is generally sent to much larger groups at a time. It could be, up to your whole email list, or it could be a segment of your email list. So it's usually planned in advance, and you know exactly when the email is going to go out, and it just usually goes out once to that audience. So this is how a flow works. So as mentioned, every single flow needs a trigger to start the automation. So this is usually an action done by a website visitor, such as someone places an order, someone abandons your checkout, someone joins your email list. So think of flows as a personalized script that guide your customers along their journey, delivering relevant content and offers at the exact time that is most relevant to that customer at that time. So the reason that they're actually important is that flows, once they're set up correctly, are typically driving between 40 to 60% of your total email marketing revenue. So that's pretty much half of your total Klaviyo revenue that should be pretty much be driven completely on autopilot. This is Future Taran just quickly checking in. By the way, if you run a 7-figure brand and you're watching this, you really shouldn't be doing this by yourself. Because if you want to scale your brand further into the high 7 or 8 figures, this is really not a good way to spend your time. Your time should be spent on running your business and focusing on growth and acquisition. So yeah, if you are a 7-figure founder watching this, you'd be much better off outsourcing this to a team, perhaps even mine. So if that's you, book in a call using the first link in the description. Now back to the video. So here is a screenshot from one of our clients. In the last 12 months, they did around $639,000 from Klaviyo. And as you can see, more than half, 51% of that revenue came directly from flows. So these were flows that we set up, well in advance, and we were focusing on the campaigns throughout the year. And pretty much the flows were just driving sales on autopilot. You can see throughout the year, this is how the sales progressed. And yeah, pretty much half of the sales were coming from flows. So the reason that they're successful is that we're able to tailor our messaging and hit the customer exactly where they are in that purchase decision. So here are some more targeted examples of campaigns versus flows. So an example of a campaign would be sending an email to your newsletter list of a new product launch. So if you have something new coming up, you say, okay, on Thursday, I want to send this email to my list. Another example would be sending an email to your list about a sale. So say Black Friday's coming up, you want everyone to know that there's a sale coming up. So you prepare that email and you send it to your list. Contrary to that, an example of a flow would be sending a thank you for your order email to anyone who's placed an order on your website. So obviously after someone goes to your website, place an order, they're going to automatically get sent an email that says thank you for placing an order. Another example would be sending an email to a user who's just abandoned their checkout, including a link where they can complete their checkout in just one click. So again, this is going to be highly targeted to exactly the customer's position that they're in right now. And every customer is always going to be in a different position. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So when planning your email flows, it's firstly really important to understand the customer funnel. And by customer funnel, I mean, how does someone get to your website and place an order? What does that journey look like? And the reason we call it a funnel is because it's shaped like one. Now, this is going to be the most amount of people are going to be kind of at the top, which is your total website visitors, and the least amount of people are typically going to be right at the bottom, which is going to be purchasers. Now, that's totally fine. It's just the way that it is. You're obviously going to get way more people that visit your website than place an order. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually identify every single key step in this funnel, and we're going to have a attributed flow for that step. So let's start with step 1. Someone's going to go to our website. What happens next? Typically, they're going to go to a product page. Then what happens? If they're happy with a product page, they read what they like, they read about your product, they see what they like. Then if they're ready to go to the next step, they're going to add that product to their cart. Now, if they've added that product to their cart and they're ready to actually place the order, what they're going to do is they're going to start checkout. So they're going to click the checkout button. And then hopefully if all things go well, their payment goes through, then they are going to be a purchaser. So that's pretty much how the funnel goes. Now, you might have already guessed, every single step of this funnel is going to have a flow attributed to that. So pretty much from step 1 to 4, if someone gets to each of these steps and then they leave before getting to the following step, there's going to be a specific flow for that exact moment. So for example, if someone goes to our website and then they don't browse any products, they don't add anything to cart, they don't check out, and they obviously don't make a purchase, if they leave after just going to our website, then it's going to trigger a flow called the site abandonment flow. Subsequently, if someone goes to our website and then they browse around products, but then they don't add to cart, and then they leave, then it's going to trigger the browse abandonment flow. So on and so forth. So if someone goes to our cart and they abandon, then it's going to be the cart abandonment flow, checkout abandonment, and that's pretty much it. And then if someone places an order, so if they actually get through what we want to do, then it's going to trigger the post-purchase flow. So these are going to be all the abandoned flows, and then these from here onwards are typically going to be your post-purchase flow. And the reason we like to split all of these up is because there's going to be a very key difference in the way that you communicate to the customer. This is all split up into different flows because the way that you communicate to the website visitor is going to be very different depending on where they fall within each of these moments. So for example, if someone goes to your website and they leave, then we don't really know what products they're interested in. So you could be selling 100 products, you could be selling 3 products. We don't know what they're interested in. So there's no point in us going, buy now, buy now, buy now. It should be way more gentle. It should be way, way more chill. And I'm going to get into all of these flows in much more detail, but that basically kind of explains why there are going to be all separate flows, and the verbiage and the copy and the vibe and the feel of every single email in every single flow is going to be completely different depending on where that customer is within that journey. So let's get started in the actual flows now. So what are these flows? So here are going to be all the flows that we're going to cover in this video. Typically, these are the 7 core flows that we like to set up for all of our brands, essentially no matter what. These are usually the flows that every single brand should pretty much be running across the board. So it starts with the welcome series, abandon checkout, then abandon cart, then browse abandonment, site abandonment, post-purchase, and customer win-back. Now, I'm going to be going through every single flow one by one. I'm going to be sharing exact email structure, exactly what the trigger should look like, exactly how to set it up on Klaviyo. So this is a very comprehensive video. If you need to skip around, if there's certain parts that you know, certain parts that you don't know, feel free. There's going to be timestamps. So yeah, let's get started. So let's get started with the first flow, which is the welcome series. So the welcome series is the first sequence of emails that someone gets when they subscribe to your email list. This is usually the most profitable flow, so it's very, very important to get it right. So the welcome series should be a 5 email sequence which focuses on both education and promotion. And that is a very key distinction here. So it shouldn't just be focused purely on promotion. You're not just trying to sell. The way you can actually sell better is if you focus on education as well. Now, the reason we like to do this is because, yes, you're going to get some people that know about you guys, that join your list, that have, say, followed you for some time. But then there's also going to be a huge chunk of brand new email subscribers that might have just come across one of your ads like 5 minutes ago. They don't really know much about you. They go to your website, they're interested in your products, they're interested in what you have to say. They're definitely not ready to buy yet, but they don't really know much about you at all. So that's why you really want to focus on nurturing within the welcome series, because you're going to get a lot more sales if the customers actually have a better idea of what you guys are all about. Now, a quick caveat is for the welcome series, you need a place for the customers to actually firstly sign up to your newsletter list. So the way that you want to do it is you want to have a pop-up set up on your website, and you give them generally some sort of incentive. So the most common incentive is going to be, say, 10% off if you join our email list. So usually on your website, give them the option to sign up. So it's pop-up pops up, someone enters their email address, and then they are going to be marked as someone joined your email list on the Klaviyo side of things. So that's pretty much it. All right, so let's get to the actual exact structure of what the flow should look like. So once someone signs up to your email newsletter list, so typically it's going to be from a pop-up or a form on your website, then it's going to immediately trigger email 1. Email 1 is going to be welcome to the family, plus you give them some sort of discount. Email 2, we like to do our process. So basically something that, what sets you guys apart from your competition? Why should a customer shop with you over anyone else? So email 3 is going to be purely promotional, which is check out our best sellers. So your key heavy hitting products that are the most popular. Email 4 is then going to be mostly educational, which is basically a founder story. So why the brand started, what you guys are all about, the mission, the purpose, the values that you guys have. And then email 5 is going to be reviews and testimonials. So as you can see, this is a good balance of education and promotion. So we have some emails that are purely educational, some emails that are purely promotional, and then you have emails like email 1 and 5 that are kind of a mix of both. It's educational and promotional. Now, the reason we like to do reviews as email 5 is because, say someone goes to email 1, 2, 3, 4, and they've opened every single email, they've read it all, but they haven't placed an order yet. Then it shows us that they're pretty interested. They're obviously something that is, their intent is quite high to purchase, but there's something holding them back. And that's when reviews will go a very, very long way to really make the customer more comfortable with placing that order, and it really helps push them over that line. So that's typically how we like to do it. Now, as mentioned, this exact document is going to be linked down below. So if you actually want to look at exact examples of each of these flows, I've got pretty much for every single email, I've got examples of these types of emails. And yeah, you can actually click on them, you can zoom in, you can do whatever you like. And yeah, so here are some examples. So yeah, this is going to be email 1. So welcome to, say, the brand, and then they've got, enjoy $5 for your order off here. This is going to be the educational email. This is going to be a bestsellers email, founder story email, and then reviews email. So a lot of really cool design aspects, copy aspects that I think could be really valuable for you guys here. So I've added these in, and I think they'll be a really good resource of inspiration when you're planning emails for your own brand. So up until now, we've pretty much covered the exact structure, the types of emails, the types of copy, the angles that we want to follow in each of these emails. Now I'm going to actually show you exactly how to set this email up within Klaviyo directly. So each of these Klaviyo tutorials are linked at the bottom of each of the flows. So right now I'm just going to play it for you guys. Cool. So to set up the welcome series flow, we just go to flows on the left and then click create flow on the top right. And I'm just going to search for welcome, and it's going to be the welcome series standard. So just click on that. Now you can just select whatever name you like. I'll just call it the welcome series. And over here, the trigger is going to be when someone subscribes to your newsletter list. So make sure this list is the exact main newsletter list that you use for your brand. So it could be called something else, but by default, it's usually just called newsletter. So this should be the list that's also connected to your Shopify store as well. We want it, and then by default, this flow looks pretty good. What we're going to add is just one filter at the top, so profile filters. Now the goal of this filter is pretty much that if someone places an order during this flow, it should just stop the flow. So it shouldn't send subsequent emails. So if someone places an order after seeing email 2, then email 3, 4, 5 won't send. And basically what we want to do is click profile filters, what someone has or has not done. It should be placed order and then 0 times since starting this flow. And the good thing about profile filters is that basically every single time an email is sent, it's going to do this filter before it sends it. So it's going to make sure it filters out people every time there's a new email. So even if someone, between email 1 and 2, they place an order, then the rest of the emails, it will not pass this filter for those customers. So that's pretty much it. So once you click save, now the last thing left would just be to add, the additional email. So you just drag over a time delay, drag over some more emails, and then you would click on the actual email and then, edit those designs. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now the next flow is abandon checkout. So on average, 70% of customers abandon their checkout. So it's a really important flow. If you don't want customers running away like this guy over here, it's really, really important to set up correctly. Now, right after the welcome series, it's usually the next most profitable and highest revenue driving flow. So it's really, really, really important to get it set up and set up correctly. Now, what we like to do is set up a sequence of 3 emails. Now, it is optional to add a discount to further improve sales. I've seen brands do it all the time. Now, I'm not a huge fan of having a discount for anyone who's abandoned checkout, but if you want to do it, you can do it on email 2. Definitely don't just go straight out of the gate. As soon as someone abandons checkout, say, hey, you don't want to be like, okay, well, here's 10% off if you check out now. You're just unnecessarily eating way too much on, you're eating up your margins. So if you want to do it, you can do a discount on email 2. It still gives the customer an opportunity to, come back to your website and complete that checkout. So this is exactly what the structure looks like. So email 1 is going to always get triggered by, of course, someone starts checkout, but doesn't complete a purchase. So what you want to do is typically wait around 2 hours before you trigger email 1. Now, all of these time frames, these are rough time frames. You can do some testing to see, what works, but these are general estimate of what you'd want to start with, and then play around with the hours after that. So trigger is, again, checkout started, doesn't complete the purchase, then wait 2 hours, send email 1 as a gentle reminder to just come back and complete a purchase. So people are going to abandon a cart for a 1,000 different reasons. You know, there could be anything. Someone just forgot about it, something else came up, they got a phone call, they had to go pick up their kids, or they're not interested anymore. It could be really anything. So that's why we don't like to just assume that it's just a price, so just immediately give them a discount. So if they don't bite on email 1, which is going to be a gentle reminder, then if you must give a discount, you can try to do it on email 2. But to be honest, we don't even, for a lot of our clients, we don't even offer a discount at any of these emails. So what we do is we just say, you know, still on the fence, so just slightly change the angle. You can add a little bit more urgency. And then email number 3 is going to be full-blown urgency. So your cart expires tonight. Don't miss out on your next, whatever the product you're selling. And then have the dynamic product block. So each of these emails is going to have exactly the products that the customer was looking at, that was in their cart. So the way this email looks is, you know, for email 1, it's going to be, you know, missing something. It's a little bit more gentle. So, you know, we know life can be crazy. There's a lot going on. It's easy to forget your cart. And then, you know, just a little bit of copy and then add the exact product block. Very simple email. Don't overcomplicate it. It shouldn't be like, you know, 10 pages long. It should be very easy and very easy for the customer to go exactly to that cart and just complete the purchase. So you want this to be nice and visible. And again, this is going to be the exact product that the customer left in their cart. They click buy now, and it should take them straight to checkout. So then email 2. So here we've actually got the dynamic product block is actually displaying. So this was the product that the customer just left in their cart, and then it says complete your purchase. And then email 3, same story. And you can always bolster your email with some reviews. We actually love doing this for Abandonment checkout. That's it. It shouldn't be much more than that. Like, you don't want to add like too much product stuff, too much extra info. They already came pretty close to placing an order, so you don't want to bombard them with too much info. It should just be easy to find the button, easy to check out. That's about it. Now, here we go. So this is what the trigger is going to be. So trigger is going to be checkout started. Filters on the flow is going to be place order 0 times to start in this flow, and has not been in this flow in the last 7 days. Again, the exact flow tutorial is about to play right now. Okay, so this is how we set up the abandoned checkout flow. So click flows on the left, click create flow on the top right, and then we're actually going to search for the word cart. Now, I know this is the abandoned checkout flow, not the abandoned cart, but for some strange reason, Klaviyo calls this the abandoned cart flow. So for some reason, it pretty much calls both of the flows the abandoned cart flow. So we need to actually double check which flow we're setting up by looking at the trigger. Now, the correct trigger for the abandoned checkout flow is basically just standard. So I know this one says email and SMS, so I'm just going to click this one and I'm going to delete the SMS steps. Now, what I'm going to make sure I do is call this the abandoned checkout flow, just to remove all confusion. So this is going to be now the abandoned checkout. And I know I added the email and SMS version. So if you are doing SMS, obviously just leave it as is, and you can add the text messages here. But because I'm only focusing on how to build the email version of this flow, I'm just going to delete the SMS section. So just click delete. And now this leaves us with just the email version. So now the next thing that I'm going to go through is just the filters on this flow. So because we technically used a template on Klaviyo, the trigger and the filters are automatically set. But if you had to create this flow from scratch, I'm just going to quickly show you what it should look like. So the trigger should be checkout started, and then the filters should be placed order 0 times since starting this flow, and has not been in this flow in the last 7 days. So as I mentioned, similar story to the abandoned cart flow as well. So what we want to do, the reason we have hasn't been in this flow for the last 7 days is basically we don't want to bombard our audience. So this limits to customers to just basically getting this email maximum 1 time a week. Now, if you notice that you get too many unsubscribes or too many spam complaints, and your deliverability is kind of struggling with this flow, I recommend actually expanding this further. So then you can test out 14 days or even up to 30 days delay. So that basically means that people will only get this flow maximum once a month, or max once every 2 weeks. But again, it's within our best interest to keep this as short as possible. So start with 7 and then kind of experiment based on that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So the flows filters should look like this. And then the trigger is automatically set. Next thing that you'd want to do is change the time delay. So I reckon do something like 2 hours. So I'll just do it 2 hours for this one. And then wait for how it says 20 hours here. I think it should be 22 hours. So then basically the next email should be about 24 hours since the customer made that abandoned checkout. Thing left would just be to actually edit the actual emails as well. So just click on the template, just click edit. And then you'll obviously want to add a third email over here as well. So add another time delay and then add an email. So next flow is going to be the abandoned cart flow. And I would say this is probably one of the most confused and one of the most easily missed flows across the board. So most brands that I work with typically are completely missing this flow. And most of the time, the brand owners don't even know that this flow was missing in the first place. The reason is that it's not actually like a readily available flow that's just easy, straight out of the box that you can set up within Klaviyo. It requires a little bit more coding to be done on the Shopify side of things. Not a lot, not super complicated, but it does require a little bit of extra work that I guess just can sometimes be forgotten or sometimes completely missed. But yeah, as the name suggests, this flow is going to be abandoned cart. So it's one step before the abandoned checkout. So if someone goes to your website, they like a product, they add it to their cart, and then if they leave the website without clicking the checkout button, and then of course without placing an order, then this flow should then trigger. Now, in terms of the actual structure of the flow, it is going to be kind of similar to the abandoned checkout flow because it's not that far off the purchase intent. It's still pretty high purchase intent, but the trigger is going to be completely different. Of course, the flow is going to be completely different as well. So as I mentioned that this flow does require just a little bit of coding to be done on the Shopify side of things. Now, if you aren't comfortable or you don't feel confident doing this by yourself, you would be able to find a Shopify dev to do this for very cheap. Like it's a very small project. It really wouldn't take more than like an hour or so. But if you're happy to do it by yourself, just click through. Again, this is going to be linked in the description below. So click this link. It'll take you to the exact Klaviyo step-by-step how to actually set this up within your Shopify site. But if you're comfortable to do this by yourself, you can just click this link. It's going to be linked down below as well. And it'll take you to exactly how to fill in this code that you need to do on Shopify. Once you've done that, then you can come back to Klaviyo and you can set up this flow. So once you've taken care of this whole Shopify side of things that needs to be done first, then the rest of the flow is pretty much stock standard, works the exact same way that you'd want to set up any other flow. And the way that it works, again, it's pretty similar to the abandoned checkout. So the trigger is going to be, of course, added to cart instead of started checkout. And then the rest of the flow is going to be 3 emails. Email 1 is going to be, we saved your cart. Again, we like to send this between 1 to 2 hours after the customer actually abandons their cart. And then we wait 22 hours. So what we want to do is kind of hit them exactly when the customer abandoned their cart. So of course, 22 plus 20 plus 2 is going to be 24. So it's going to be exactly the same time that the customer abandoned their cart yesterday. Then email 2 will trigger. Then email 3 is going to trigger 24 hours after that. The reason we like to do this is customer behavior is pretty cyclical, same time. Yes, if the customer was, browsing on their phone at lunchtime yesterday, it's pretty likely they're going to be doing the same thing lunchtime tomorrow. So that's why we like to really hit them when we know that they're active and we know that they're shopping. So yeah, we like to make sure these time delays are usually exactly the same time. So pretty much what we want to do is, again, email 1 is going to be pretty easy, pretty chill, nothing too aggressive. Email 2, again, if you want to offer a discount, offer on an email 2, but you want to up the verbiage here a little bit, so, missing out. As you can see, the intensity kind of increases slightly in email 2 and 3. Last chance is going to be email 3. Your saved items expire tonight. And then, we like to, again, offer some reviews here as well because it helps with the customer purchase. So, that's the abandoned cart flow. And here we're going to go through the exact tutorial on how we set this up within Klaviyo. So to set up this flow, we're going to click Flows on the left, and then click Create Flow on the top right. And then we're going to do Build Your Own on the top right. And I'll just call this Abandoned Cart. Click Create Flow. And we're going to need to manually select a trigger for this one. So it's really important to paste that code into Shopify beforehand. So that's a prerequisite. So make sure all of the Shopify side is done correctly. I did link a article with the entire instruction. So just make sure that's done first. And then what we're able to do is the trigger should show up on our Klaviyo side. So click All Triggers and then click Metric. And then it should say Add to Cart. So if you just search Added to Cart, it'll pop up. And then we're going to do some profile filters. So this is going to be add profile filter. And pretty much what we want to do is filter out anyone who places an order or adds any or continues the checkout throughout this flow. So after starting this flow. So pretty much what we're going to do is what someone has or has not done. And then checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. So if someone goes back and then restarts the checkout, and we're going to do places an order 0 times, same story, so 0 times since starting this flow. So the next thing we can add is some sort of restriction on how many times people can get this flow. So if you don't want to bombard your subscribers with abandoned cart flow every single time they do it, what we can do is click and again, and then click has not been in this flow in the last, let's say, 7 days. So that basically means that the maximum time that someone can get it is just once a week. And I'm pretty happy with that. Again, based on the metrics, if you get too many unsubscribes, too many spam complaints, you can increase that time delay. You can do it up to 30 days. But we like to keep this tight. So even 7 to 14 days is usually a pretty sweet spot. But just pay close attention to the numbers, and then it'll basically decide how to move with this metric. Click save, and we're pretty much done. So what we're going to do now is just add some emails. So I'm just going to click confirm and save. And then we'll add an email. So before we add an email, we're going to want to add a time delay. So time delay, you can do something like, say, 2 hours. And then we're going to add an email. So to set up the email, it's really important that the actual customer's cart will dynamically populate. So you can just search for templates over here. And based on pretty much anything that you like, you can just start with, say, this one over here. Just click use template. And then you can start editing this email, start importing in the designs that you've created outside of Klaviyo, or you can just do it directly into Klaviyo as well. Cool. Then we get to our next flow, which is the browse abandonment flow. So browse abandonment is going to be triggered when someone goes to a website and they start browsing products, but then they leave the website without adding anything to their cart or making any purchase or starting any checkout. So basically, it's a relatively warm audience. It's not going to be as hot as abandoned cart, abandoned checkout. So we need to be a little bit more gentle with the messaging. We can't be as, buy now, complete the purchase. We want a little bit more nurturing involved. Because again, there is still purchase intent because we know exactly the products that the customer is interested in, but they might not fully be ready to buy just yet. So that's why the approach is going to be a little bit more gentle. But yeah, so let me show you what the flow looks like. So the trigger is going to be someone viewed a product. And then, of course, they didn't add anything to their cart and they didn't complete their purchase. So what we like to do is wait around 3 hours and say, did you see something that you liked? So again, not as extreme where we're like, buy now, purchase now, your cart's expiring. But what we like to do is, so did you see something you like? And then again, dynamic product block is going to display. It's going to show exactly the product that the customer was looking at last. And then we're going to be able to take that customer back to the website, back to the product page, and then they can complete that checkout. So then next, what we like to do is email 2, wait again 21 hours, so take another look. And then here what we want to do is, again, give them an option to go straight back to that product page. You can also show some additional options. So you could either show other items that the customer was recently viewing, or you could even just do products that go similar or similarly purchased together. And then again, reviews are always going to go a very long way. And that's about it. You don't want to overload this email with too much copy. It should be, again, simple, easy to find, easy to navigate. The customer should really, the main goal is to just get them back to your website as quickly as possible and as easily as possible without too much friction. So yeah, that's going to be the flow. And then here we're going to go through the exact tutorial of how we set it up within Klaviyo. Now, the trigger that we like to use is viewed product. Now, profile filters are going to be added to cart 0 times since starting this flow, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and place order 0 times since starting this flow, and has not been in this flow in the last 30 days. So to set up the browse abandonment flow, we click on flows on the left and click create flow on the top right. And then we just search for the word browse and scroll down until you find browse abandonment standard, and then just click on that, and then just click create flow. Now, again, because we use a template for this flow, the trigger and the filters are automatically set. And I'm just going to quickly go through them just in case you want to set this up from scratch. So just click viewed product for your trigger. So it should be, viewed product. And then for your profile filters, it should be checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. Placed order is 0 times since starting this flow. And customer has not been in this flow in the last 30 days. Now this can be changed up accordingly. So you can do 14 days to 30 days, anything around that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now the next flow is going to be the site abandonment flow. And this is going to be one step before the browse abandonment in terms of the customer funnel. So pretty much what that means is if someone goes to our website and they leave without browsing any products or adding anything to their cart, and of course without placing any orders, then this flow would get triggered. So someone that goes to a website and then leaves. So this is going to be a cooler audience than the browse abandonment. However, they're still warmer than first-time website visitors because this is, of course, going to be someone who's signed up to your email list before and they've come back to your website for whatever reason. Now, there is still some purchase intent since their customer did come back to our website, but we don't really know what products the customer is interested in. So we want to be a little bit more gentle in our approach. So, for example, the flow structure that we like to do is just one email, and this email should be a lot more gentle. So the way that it works is the trigger is going to be active on site. We wait around 6 hours and then we send an email that says our story. So what we like to do here is just tell a little bit more, give a little bit more education about the brand, about the types of products that you sell. You can even focus on some key collections that the customer can then go look at and then start browsing. But again, you can't really take them to exact product pages. You can't really take them to the checkout because we don't have that information right now. We just know that they went to our website and then they left. So you want to basically guide them into your website and then start browsing, and that'll hopefully trigger subsequent flows. Again, this has to be a much more gentle email. You don't want to do anything crazy urgency, crazy scarcity sort of stuff. It should just be nice, easy and gentle email for the audience. So here is how we like to set it up. So trigger is going to be active on site, and these are going to be the filters. So if someone viewed a product 0 times since starting this flow, and they added cart 0 times starting this flow, and the checkout started 0 times starting this flow, and placed order 0 times since starting this flow, and hasn't been in this flow in the last 30 days. So here I'm going to show you exactly how to set up on Klaviyo. So this is how we create the site abandonment flow. Now there isn't actually a default template created by Klaviyo. So for this one, we actually have to build it on our own. So click build on your own on the top right, and I'm going to call this site abandonment and click create flow. Now the trigger for this flow is going to be if someone is active on site. So just click all triggers, metric, and the first one is active on site. Okay, so now we're going to add some filters. So just click to, so now we're going to add some filters. So just click profile filters on the bottom and click add profile filter. And then the first one is going to be what someone has or has not done. And it's going to be viewed product. So viewed product 0 times since starting this flow. And then we click and what someone has or has not done. It's going to be add to cart, added to cart. Again, 0 times since starting this flow. And then we click and again, what someone has or has not done. Checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. So same story. And then last one is going to be what someone has or has not done. Placed order 0 times since starting this flow. Cool. So this adds pretty much all of the filters, which are going to filter out all of our other flows. So if you kind of recognize, this one should actually trigger the post-purchase flow. Checkout started, that should be triggering the abandoned checkout flow. The add to cart, that should be triggering the add to cart flow. So these ones, basically we're filtering out, making sure that it's not going to be conflicting with any of our other flows that we currently have set up. Now, the final thing that we're going to do is add a maximum amount of times that someone can receive this flow. So I'm going to do has not been in this flow in the last 30 days. So for a site abandonment flow, I think that's pretty reasonable. But if you want to kind of play around with it, so anywhere between 14 to 30, sometimes even higher than 30 is okay as well, because it's a pretty cool audience. You don't want to bombard them too much, but anywhere between 14 to 30 is a good place to be. So click save, and there we have it. So next thing is going to be to actually add the emails that you have as well. So we're going to click add a time delay. And then we're going to add, so let's just say this is 6 hours, whatever it may be. And then we're going to add an email. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So up until now, you might have noticed all of the flows that we were focusing on were all pre-purchase. So, if someone goes to a website and then they didn't place an order, how would we nurture them into placing an order? So up until now, we've been focusing on all of the steps in the funnel before the customer actually places that order. So the goal, of course, is for the customer to place an order. So what happens after that? Then we like to immediately trigger the flow called the post-purchase flow. And this is really, really important. Now, we can't just forget about the customer as soon as they place an order, because usually they're going to be waiting for some sort of communication from you. Now, how you handle this communication is really going to be what decides whether the customer is just going to be a one-time order customer, or whether they'll come back and return and purchase with you guys again, and hopefully be a lifelong customer with you guys. So this flow is really, really important, and it's pretty much designed and optimized to increase your customer lifetime value. What you want to do is nurturing the customer, ensure that they get the most out of the purchase that they've made. You also want to promote your social media accounts. You want to focus on upselling and cross-selling to then increase your average order value. And you also want to request reviews from your customers after the product has arrived and after you've given them enough time to use the products. So the way that we like to actually structure this flow is going to be slightly different to, of course, the rest of the flows. We like to actually split this up between first-time customers and returning customers, because that verbiage is going to be slightly different. So what we like to do is trigger is going to be someone places an order, and immediately the flow will trigger, and you're going to ask a question, is the customer a first-time buyer? So obviously this logic, I'm going to go through the exact way that we set it up on Klaviyo, but I'm just explaining the logic behind it first. So is the customer going to be a first-time buyer? Yes. Then we're going to trigger email 1A. So this is going to be thank you for your order, and the verbiage is going to be slightly different. I'll show you what that looks like. And then email B is going to be if someone is a returning customer. So if they've actually placed an order with you before, they've already kind of got this email, so you don't want to repeat the exact same email, and you're just going to be thanks again. Thank you for returning. We appreciate your loyalty. So you want to basically nurture them and reward them and show them that you actually remember that they're coming back for another purchase, and you want to really focus on that. Next is going to be a upsell email. So give the customer an opportunity to toss more into their cart. So you could say, you have 24 hours if you want to add anything more. You purchase X. Typically, if you buy X, Y goes really well with that product. And you have about 24 hours if you want before we ship out your order. So you have a little bit more time if you want to toss something into your order. So basically, within 2 hours you want to send that email. And then email 3 is going to be educational email based on exactly what the customer bought. So for example, if someone bought some socks, what we want to do is focus on how can they actually get the most out of that product, how to wash, how to dry, how to pair, bleaching, all these little instructions that will actually get the customer ready and primed. So once the products arrive, they know exactly they can hit the ground running, and they know exactly how to make the most of their product. Then what we do is we wait and we say follow us on socials. And then email 5 is going to be leave us a review. So as you can see, this is what the emails look like. So again, email 1 is going to be a big thank you for choosing the brand. You've taken the first step towards a cleaner, brighter, pluck-free smile. So basically, you just want to say thank you, and you get excited and get them nice, happy, and hyped. Email 2 is going to be upsell, cross-sell. Email 3 is going to be education. Here is where we focus on community. And then here is where we ask for reviews. So these are the examples of the email. And of course, next step is going to be setting it up in Klaviyo. All right, so for the post-purchase flow, we're going to click on flows on the left and click create flow on the top right. And we're going to search for post-purchase. Here we go. It's the first one. So post-purchase follow-up, and then it says order count split, and it's the Shopify trigger. So that's the one. I'm just going to simplify this whole name. Just call it post-purchase flow, and then click create flow. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that the flow is actually split up a few times, and it's based on how many times the customer has placed an order with you in the past. So pretty much what it's going to be is the flow goes after someone places an order, and if it's their first ever order, then this email will trigger. But if it's not their first ever order, by default it's got, if it's their second order, it'll be this one. If it's their third order, it'll be this one. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the whole third order stuff that's going on. And I'm just going to split between if it's the customer's first ever purchase or if it's they've placed an order before. And this is what we're going to do. So for a new customer, we're going to change it up a little bit. So welcome to the brand and welcome to the family, and thank you for your first ever purchase. And then the repeat customer email is going to be more of a thanks for coming back, and basically just rewarding them for their loyalty and saying thank you. And then the subsequent emails are pretty much going to be the exact same. So what we can do is just whenever you design this email, you can just duplicate it. So just click the word clone, and then follow that, move that back over to this side as well. So pretty much pretty easy to do. So for example, we're going to delete this one. So we're going to design this email for email number 2, and then it's going to pretty much be the exact same. So we'll just clone it over and then paste it there. So that's pretty much it. So the last flow that we're going to cover in this video is going to be the customer win-back flow. And the goal of the win-back flow is to pretty much win back a lapsed customer. So say someone placed an order with you, say 90 days ago, and usually if your products are usually repurchased within a 60 to 80 to 90 day period, then after someone passes that period, you want to try to send them an email to try to win them back to place another order with you. So the way that it works is the actual time that you follow is going to vary quite a lot based on what products you sell and the industry that you're in. So for example, like a t-shirt brand could use a 90-day period. So after someone placed an order, they bought a t-shirt 90 days ago, you want to send them an email to say, we miss you, you want to place another order, versus a completely different industry. So for an office furniture store, you're not going to say, if someone just bought a table, you're not going to wait 90 days and say buy another table. Usually that purchase window is going to be a lot longer, so you could wait, say, even 1 to 2 year period. Now what you got to focus on is your exact product in your industry, and every single product has a time frame where you think that it's been too long and the customer should place another order. Now, you shouldn't think, I'm selling this product and it's really just going to be a one-time order. Someone's only going to buy it once. That's not the case. There's always going to be a period. It could be 90 days, it could be 5 months, 6 months. If you sell something that, takes something as big and expensive as, say, a car, even a car gets changed around every 8 to 10 years. So there's always going to be a time frame that you deem a lapsed customer, and you want to find out what that is. Obviously, and the best way to do that is just look at your actual previous purchase data, and you also can look at some industry information as well. But again, find what that time frame is, and then as soon as someone passes that time frame, you want to offer the customer something irresistible. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure this offer is better or at least as good as your welcome offer, because again, the customer's basically lapsed and you want to do whatever you can to try to win them back, because selling a heavily discounted product is better than losing a customer for good. Now, the reason that I say it should be on par or better than your welcome offer is because typically if someone, places an order with you before they join your email list, they already know what your welcome offer is. If they signed up, they placed an order with you and you gave them, 10% off, and they know that, and now you're offering them 5%, they're gonna know, right? They're gonna be like, well, I could just unsubscribe and use a different email and subscribe again, and I'll get 10% off. So you want to give them something irresistible. It should be something that is stands out, and they're actually wowed. And you are able to then bring them back and try to get them to place an order. Obviously, you don't want to sell at a loss. You don't want to do anything silly, but it should be something that is irresistible in the customer's perspective. So here's what the flow looks like. Again, this time frame is going to vary, but for example, the trigger is going to be placed an order 90 days ago. You want to trigger this email immediately. So it's been a while. Wait 24 hours. Say we got a special offer for you, and then 24 hours after that, you say offer expires in 24 hours. So now what you can do with email 1 is you can either just give them a gentle reminder, say, it's been a while, here are some products that I think you'd be interested in. Or again, email 1, straight out of the gates, you can say, it's been a while, here's 15% off, and here are some products that I think you'll be interested in. Email 2 would be, again, handpicked, either exactly based on the customer's previous purchase or new products that might have come in since the customer placed that last order. Again, give them some options, focus on the discount, and you want to really make sure you make it obvious that the discount code is going to eventually expire. And then email 3 is just going to be full on urgency driven. So, claim 15% off. You've got, say, 24 hours. This is the final hours. Time is running out. Here's 15% off. And then, it's going to be a lot more urgency driven. So that's pretty much it. Now we're going to get to the Klaviyo tutorial. So let's go to flows and click create flow. And we're just going to search the word Winback. Here we go, and what we're going to search for is the customer win-back standard. So that's the one. Click on that, usually the one with the Shopify logo, and then just change this to so it's simple. It says customer win-back. Click create flow. Now, as mentioned, the delay is going to be varied based on whatever products you sell. So whatever you think it might be. For example, for my client, I'm just going to say 90 days, and then the actual trigger should just be placed order. And last thing I want to do is just check what the profile filters are. So it says placed order 0 times since starting this flow, which is perfect. So that's pretty much it. So everything looks like it's good. Obviously just play around with the time delays and the actual content of the emails as well. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you've made it this far and you found this video helpful, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. Please consider subscribing. It goes a very long way for our channel. And if you have any questions or anything I can help you with, just comment down below and I'll respond as quickly as I can. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.